Okay, let's talk about APIs. You know, the invisible glue that holds pretty much every modern app together. But here's the thing. As you build more and more, managing all those connections can feel like you're trying to untangle this giant, messy knot. So today, we're going to zero in on one incredible tool that brings some serious order to all that chaos, the API gateway.
But to really appreciate why this solution is so powerful, we first have to understand the problem it solves. Why do we even need these things in the first place? Well, it all comes down to a super common headache that developers face every single day.
And this isn't some abstract, made-up problem. I mean, look at this question. I pulled it straight from a developer forum on Reddit, and it just perfectly hits the nail on the head. You've poured your heart and soul into building something amazing, and now you're faced with this huge challenge of, how do I get this out into the world safely and, effectively?
And if you break that big question down, you get these really specific pain points. For starters, there is no way you can just stick your secret API keys in your front-end code. That's the code that runs right in your user's browser. It's a massive security risk. Then, you've got to stop one user from just hammering your service with a million requests and taking the whole thing down. And of course, if you ever want to charge for your API, you have to track every single call. It gets messy fast.
And this, right here, is where the API gateway just swoops in to save the day. It is literally designed to handle all of those tricky problems: security, rate limiting, monitoring, all of it, in one central place. It basically becomes the single smart front door for all of your services.
So what is it, technically speaking? Well, an API gateway, sometimes you'll hear it called an API proxy, is really just an intermediary. It's a middleman. It sits between the apps asking for data, which are your clients, and the services that actually have the data, your backends. And its entire job is to manage, secure, and analyze every bit of traffic flowing between them.
I absolutely love this analogy. Just think of it like the bouncer at a nightclub, or maybe the front desk at a huge hotel. It is the one single entrance where everybody has to check in. They show their ID, you make sure they're following the rules, and then you point them in the right direction. It's the ultimate gatekeeper.
And the benefits are just huge. You get way better security with things like OAuth for user authentication and web application firewalls to block attacks. You can manage all your traffic from one spot with rate limits and quotas. You get incredible analytics. It can even speed things up by caching common requests. But honestly, maybe the most important benefit is that it separates or decouples your clients from your backends. This gives you so much freedom to change things later without breaking everyone's apps.
Okay, so we get the what and the why, but how does the gateway actually do all this cool stuff? Well, the secret ingredient is a really elegant concept called policies.
A policy is just a small, configurable rule that does one specific job. Think of it like a step in a checklist. So here's the journey. A request comes in, the gateway intercepts it, then it runs through this checklist of policies. Is the API key valid? Check. Is the user under their rate limit? Check. And only if every single check passes does it forward the request onto the actual backend. And the real magic here is you can set all this up without writing a single line of new code in your backend services.
So that's how they work. And because this approach is so incredibly powerful, it's no surprise that the whole market has just taken off. So let's zoom out to the big picture, because believe me, the API gateway landscape for 2025 is absolutely booming. It's more competitive than ever.
And to put a number on it, get this. The global market for API management is on track to fly past $20 billion by 2030. So yeah, this is not some niche little developer tool anymore. This is a core piece of infrastructure being driven by massive trends, like the move to microservices and, of course, the explosion of AI applications.
With so many options out there, how in the world do you even start to compare them? Well, we can break it all down using these 5 key pillars. First up, performance. Just how fast is it? Second, security. Third is TCO, or total cost of ownership. What's the real price tag? Then you've got deployment, and finally, the ecosystem of tools that comes with it. Now, one of the first big choices you have to make is your deployment model. On one hand, you've got these edge or serverless gateways, like what Cloudflare offers. These give you just insane global speed. On the other hand, you've got the managed cloud gateways from providers like AWS. They offer super tight integrations with all their other services, but you might face higher latency if your users are spread all over the world.
And when we talk about pure, raw performance, especially for the solutions you host yourself, the numbers are just wild. A well-tuned open-source gateway can chew through over 200,000 requests every single second. I mean, players like Nginx, Kong, and Tyke put up some seriously impressive benchmarks.
Okay, so that's the theory and the landscape. But how do you actually pick a winner for your specific project? Let's get out of the abstract and jump into a practical, real-world example of what happens when you make the right choice.
So let me set the scene for you. We've got a medium-sized e-commerce brand. They were running their most important API, the one for their product catalog, on a pretty standard cloud gateway all in a single region. The problem? They wanted things to be way faster, especially for their international customers. So they decided it was time to make a switch. So, by moving to an edge gateway, which runs their code in hundreds of data centers all over the world, their 95th percentile latency, which is the experience for the vast majority of their users, it plummeted from 230 milliseconds all the way down to just 50. That is a night and day difference that directly impacts how fast your pages load, your SEO rankings, and ultimately how many sales you actually make. And the win wasn't just about speed. A lot of these edge providers don't charge for data egress. You know that sneaky, often expensive fee you pay just to move data out of a cloud network? Well, by getting rid of that cost, this brand slashed their data transfer bills by an incredible 37%. This is why you have to look beyond the sticker price at the total cost of ownership. It's a huge deal.
So, what this all really shows is that the best gateway is just the one that fits your top priority. This matrix lays it out pretty clearly. If your number one goal is the absolute lowest latency for users everywhere on the planet, an edge solution is a no-brainer. If you live and breathe inside the AWS ecosystem, their native gateway is going to feel right at home. And if you crave maximum control and raw, blistering speed, a powerhouse open-source option is your champion.
All right, let's bring this all home. I hope we've seen that an API gateway is so much more than just a piece of technical plumbing. It's really time we all started thinking about it a little differently.
That's right. Your API gateway is a strategic front door to your entire digital ecosystem. It controls access, it shapes the user experience, and it can even directly impact your bottom line. It's not just a utility, it's a strategic asset.
So, I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Is your API gateway just a simple tool that's routing traffic from point A to point B? Or are you using it as a strategic lever to build a faster, more secure, and ultimately a more profitable business? Because as this whole landscape keeps evolving, the difference between those two mindsets, well, that's going to be everything.